Hello again, my name is Katie and here at OCD Illustrated I talk about obsessive compulsive disorder. I've got another motto for you today that is helpful for fighting OCD, and that motto is sit with it. Now, pretty much any behavior therapist who's doing ERP and CBT is probably going to say this phrase a million times, and as somebody with OCD it's probably going to get pretty annoying. However, it's actually pretty useful. Okay, so yeah, this phrase has to do with exposure and response prevention, although it could be talking about any difficult emotion for people with or without OCD, but right now this is OCD Illustrated, so I'm talking about OCD. And the phrase sit with it means to experience the discomfort and not try to change the uncomfortable feelings or scary thoughts. And this is exactly what you need to do when you're doing an exposure. I'll have an example for you now that will make it pretty clear. Okay, so here's Anaya, and she has OCD, and an obsession just popped into her head. She's a mom of a new baby, and she just had the thought, what if I molested my child? Obviously a very scary thought for any parent. And that thought led to emotional distress. For her, that distress took the form of her body feeling really shaky, a really intense feeling of disgust, and her heart rate spiking. If she does what her OCD wants, her next step is to do a compulsion. Side note, take the time to notice that I am drawing out the OCD cycle here. If you need more information on that, I've got a video just focused on it. Okay, so one of her compulsions might be to have somebody else dress the baby in the morning, or to only change the baby's diaper in public restrooms where she would be more likely to be discovered if she happened to molest the baby. To go online to research like qualities of child molesters to compare herself to them to see whether or not she fits the criteria. And if she did those compulsions, she would get temporary relief, which would be followed by the obsession coming back and her going around this whole loop again. Alright, now I'm going to graph out her discomfort during that process and going around that OCD cycle. So you can see on the bottom axis I have time, so that's the amount of time that's progressing. And the up and down axis I have her SUD scale, which is her rating of distress. Up higher on the scale means she's in more distress, down lower on the scale means that she's in less distress. So following this model, her obsession came up and her distress spiked. That's the line going up. And then she did a compulsion and got some relief. That relief didn't last very long, and then she got the obsession again, and she got even more distressed. And she did an even bigger compulsion to get her distress back down. But then after a shorter period of time, the obsession came back and caused her more distress than even before. She did another compulsion and got some relief, and then the obsession came back and she did a compulsion. And you can see it just going up and down and up and down and up and down, just like a mountain range. And she's feeling really crummy this whole time and wasting a lot of time doing compulsions. Okay, so let's replay this scenario, assuming that she knows the motto, sit with it. Like before, the obsession pops into her head. And like before, after that obsession pops into her head, she feels distress. And all the same symptoms of distress that she felt in the first scenario. So now is the part where she changes the agenda. Instead of doing a compulsions, she remembers that her ERP therapist said that she needs to sit with it. And so she tolerates the distress. She doesn't try to change the uncomfortable feelings or scary thoughts. And it takes a while, but eventually she gets relief. And her OCD isn't cured yet, so at some point the obsession comes back. Okay, and so now you're asking me, what's the point? You just put in all 4 arrows, it went back to the obsession. Why would I want to do that? And to see that, we need to look at another chart. Alright, there's the same version of the graph with the SUD scale and the time. And just like before, when she had the obsession, her distress started to spike. And she chose not to do a compulsion, so her distress got even higher. But as she continued to sit with it and not do a compulsion, all those symptoms started to decrease and she started feeling better. She continued sitting with it and not doing compulsions until her distress was gone and she was feeling like she usually does. And yeah, the obsession did come back and her distress started to go up again. When that happened, she sat with it again and didn't do a compulsion and the distress got higher. Like before, she continued to sit with it and it went back down. And the amazing thing is that her distress did not get as high as it did before and it didn't take as long to go away. If she continues being really diligent about sitting with anxiety when the obsessions come, she will have another distress spike, but again, it's not going to be as high and it won't take as long to dissipate. After a number of repetitions of sitting with it, her distress is barely going to spike at all. And that's when she knows that she's really starting to conquer her OCD. Okay, look back at this other graph. This is the graph for when she does compulsions. She felt distressed but wasted her time doing compulsions to feel not that much better and made her OCD worse. Compare that to the second graph we made, the one that looks more like the weird rainbow. This is what her emotions looked like when she used the phrase sit with it multiple times, which means that she did exposures and ritual prevention. Alias for this graph is she felt distressed but didn't waste her time doing compulsion. Made her OCD weaker with each time she experienced the obsession. Okay, as you see, sit with it is a core principle of ERP that can help you get well and live the kind of life that you want to live, despite having OCD or getting rid of OCD. Please subscribe to my channel if you felt that this was useful to you. Comment if you want, and as always, thank you for watching, and I hope you join me again soon.